Next lecture in today's CME is by my close friend Dr. C.J. Thakkar, who is going to share invaluable pearls, tips, and tricks on financial management and wealth planning for an orthopedic surgeon. I assure you that this is an outstanding talk which will benefit every one of us. Over to Dr. Thakkar.
When you start your practice, you think financial and social success is like that beautiful distant rainbow, not realizing that actually you are holding it in your own hands. I am not a financial wizard who can advise you where to invest, how to invest. Orthopedic surgeon, I can tell you how to create wealth in your own practice. As Stephen Covey said, your circle of influence should be larger than your circle of concerns. And influence, my friends, comes from financial stability and having a lot of wealth. Now, do not mistake money as wealth. Ambanis, Birlas, and Tatas all are moneyed. But whom do I or you consider wealthy? Tatas. Because not only they have money, they have ethics, they do charity, their businesses are transparent, and they give you excellent service. When you think of our first citizen, that is the President of India, all of us would agree that APJ Abdul Kalam was one of the best. Was it because he was rich? When he retired, he had only 3 pairs of clothes and room full of books. But because of his knowledge, his integrity, we all respect him. And friend, that is wealth. Wealth is not only money, but a good health to be able to enjoy it, an excellent reputation, a stable family, excellent group of friends, colleagues who are honest, sincere, and when you die, you do not have a regret that I did a surgery which was not indicated because I wanted to have money. There are 3 decades in a life of a professional. The first decade, there is a lot of time, but there is no money. In the second decade, you have money as well as time, while in the third decade, you have a lot of money, but no time even to enjoy. And if you survive these 3 decades nicely, then the fourth decade is definitely a bonus. My friend, Dr. Charles Pinto, a renowned psychiatrist from Bombay, told me very initially in my life that in the initial part of your life, your availability is important. But in the later part, your non-availability is important. So the first decade, the typical scenario is you have passed out your MS orthopedics and you are starting your own practice. You hire a 2 hour of cabin time in a polyclinic, wait for the patients to come. But to substantiate your income and to enhance your knowledge, you work as an assistant to some senior surgeon, or you take a job in the hospital, and then you try meeting people and develop contacts. So in the first decade, as far as the time is concerned, you have plenty of time. Don't while it away. Enhance your knowledge and the skill, nurture your contacts, enhance your computer skills, because next decade is going to be artificial intelligence. But doing that, do not neglect family time, do not neglect your hobbies, and do not neglect your travel, which could be for pleasure or for learning. You have very limited money, but still invest systematically in either mutual funds or PPF or whatever you want. But definitely buy a laptop which will connect you to the world and to have happiness at home, some gold for your wife, and for your enhancement, equipment. But remember, no matter what you do, your practice is going to be limited. But always pay yourself first. Save whatever it is, 10 rupees, 100 rupees, 1000 rupees every day, and then only spend. Save about 15 to 20% of your realized income every day. And if you see this table, power of compounding, if you invest at early age and you invest only for a few years, you still could have 500,000. But if you invest late, you'll have to keep invested for longer time, and still your returns may be just 180,000. In the second decade, you have limited time, so don't neglect your learning context. But now you start interacting socially, like Lions Club or Rotary Club. Take up teaching, but do not neglect your family time, hobbies and travel. And from your money, you now have to acquire home or clinic, but do not forget equipment. In this decade, no matter what you do, you will definitely have a reasonably good practice. The third decade brings you into a situation where your time is very, very limited. But do not neglect enhancing your knowledge and skills, and do not neglect your family, hobbies and travel. And now to your social and teaching, you can also add some charity to get some satisfaction and giving back to the society from whom you have taken something. And as far as money is concerned, of course, the clinic, where we will talk about interdependence. I do not believe in vacation home. I go to a best of the hotel and enjoy myself. You may invest in art if you are understanding it, but do not neglect equipment. Now, in this decade, your practice will depend solely on what you did in your first 2 decades. If you are honest, straightforward, reasonably good surgeon, and not cheated many people, definitely your third decade will be very comfortable. But if you did malpractice, you would earn a lot of money in the first and second decade, but reputation will be zero, and in the third decade you will suffer. When I buy the equipment, I buy the best. I first negotiate the price which is comfortable for me as well as comfortable for the dealer. I do not squeeze him dry, and after all that, sit over a cup of coffee or dinner and request him for extended warranty with parts, and nobody has ever refused me this favor. What are the avenues for a doctor to create wealth? Your own profession or a market? I would bet on my own profession. My secondary income would come from sharing the clinic with my colleagues, who could be a good radiologist, a pathologist, a physiotherapist, and if I had my own hospital, I would start thinking of pharmacy. All these people, I would pay them well, what they deserve. I would not take cut from them, because that's the only way they will give me the best of the service and will be my brand ambassadors as well. When I am selecting allied specialists for an opinion, like a physician or a cardiologist, I always select the best. Never ask them that give me commission. Pay them equal to what they get in the market or better, because this is the only way it will be a win-win situation, and they would be willing to give my patients the best. I always believed in investing in technology. Like, I was the first orthopedic surgeon in Bombay to have digital radiology, the space suit and navigation, that not only gave me a better image outside, but it improved my results as well. And your visibility as a good progressive surgeon is very, very important. Now, selecting a subspecialty from so many specialties that we have is like selecting your life partner. You don't want your life partner to be so flashy and so difficult to maintain. You want somebody who is homely, loving, whom you can satisfy in all the ways, and who will be loyal to you. If you ask me which specialties I would select if I were to do today, either hip or a shoulder or an arthroscopy. Why hip? Because I don't see any good hip surgeon who is master in arthroscopy of the hip, to replacement, to acetabular surgery, to revisions. Shoulders, yes, many people are doing it today, but still there is a lot of scope. And arthroscopy, of course, is the best because hardly there is any bleeding. You can operate in any nursing home. You don't have to have your own clinic. And remember, to find out your mistake, somebody has to do rescopy. Find out your niche. We were always told that learn from our weaknesses or master our weaknesses. I think the most important thing at the age of 40 and above is to strengthen your strengths. Whatever you know, do the best. And that would be my advice. Most important thing for us is not having a heavy OPD, but heavy surgical list. So how to increase your conversion rate? Always cherry pick the cases. The cases in which you know you are going to be successful and be able to give you the best result. Do not try to do difficult revisions or some such thing early in life, because if you mess up, you will lost not only a family but so many other references. When in doubt, refer to colleagues. They will be happy and they will refer you some cases. Do not get involved in non-operative management like rheumatoid arthritis, medical management or osteoporosis. It's a waste of time. You refer to concerned specialty, they will be happy, patients will be happy, you will be happy, and they will refer some patients to you if at all. And I have never participated in seminars giving lectures on medical management of osteoporosis or rheumatoid arthritis or newer NSAIDs or anything like that. It's waste of time, and it actually, people don't think that you are a surgeon. They would think in terms of you are a medical orthopedic surgeon. Who are our ambassadors? Your receptionist, of course, your public relation officer, and this is not the person who will give and cut to your general practitioners, okay? Your assistants, your nurses and physiotherapists. These are your brand ambassadors. If you have your own surgical center, then patients would bargain in surgical fees, but never ever bargain in the equipment which is used in the OT, because they think that that is very important thing for the patient's survival or a success of a surgery. So you can charge for those things pretty heavy, because that is an hidden charge which nobody compares, but your fees will be compared with XYZ. So keep your surgical fee reasonable, but charge in other things in the theater well, so you compensate. Now, who is your, public relation officer? I hired a handicapped girl who would sit in my clinic and would help patients in getting, beds in the hospitals, or, solving their budget problems or giving them the budgets and whatever other questions they have. The advantage is when they see a handicapped person, automatically people become more humble. They do not argue. When she tells them the fees or if there is any dispute, they do not try to bargain with her. And your impression, your position is much enhanced, that you are, fulfilling your corporate social responsibility. And you may save on tax as well. Most important thing is, I have realized that people do not know their value. They always feel that they are inferior to others. No. How do people decide your value? They decide your value as to which hospital you are working. Now remember, if you are working in a charitable hospital within the vicinity of a private clinic, people will think that you are a cheap surgeon. But if your consulting room is next to a 5-star hospital, people will think you are a big doctor. Never ever have your clinic next to your charitable attachment, because those poor patients would want to come, take your opinion by paying you your reasonable consulting fee, and expect them to be given priority in the charitable clinic. So select your clinic location very wisely. Work at the best places. Your value in the eyes of the patient is depending upon the hospital you are attached to, the way you dress up, and your clinic. So when I was attached to only my nursing home, I probably charged 10,000 rupees total for a fracture of the neck of the femur. In Lilavati, I got paid 40,000 rupees. And in Beach Candy, I could demand anything which I wanted. I am the same person, same surgeon, same skills, but my value differed from where I was attached to. Always believe in ethical marketing, like have a high-tech clinic, put all the certificates and mementos which are very impressive for the patients who are waiting, a beautiful website which gives a lot of information. And I did was each page of website had a QR code, and if the patient said, oh, I want to know about this, I would just print the QR code and give it to them, not answer those medical questions. Say, okay, visit my website, everything is there. And then videos on prevention, so I don't have to answer all those questions. Always give more than people expect out of you. Who doesn't like discounts? Like in my practice, I gave them pre-op labs free, post-op home drop by ambulance free, post-op physiotherapy for 5 days free, post-op suture removal at home on the 10th or 12th day free. Gave them in cards with my logo and name printed behind, and in the front what surgery the patient had undergone and what implant, so that when they went to the airport, if it beeped, they could show the card and walk very freely. Now all these small little things were taken care of by my surgical fees and other things. So patients thought that they are getting the best bargain. And of course, if you don't have to bring your old mother from Borivali to Bandra for suture removal, you will definitely appreciate that service. We had pre-op physiotherapy home visit so that they would know my physiotherapist and my way of working. We had a 24/7 phone assistance, 24/7 doctor's assistance. So patients never felt that they were left high and dry. As far as the accounting practice is concerned, it is very, very important to have a good accounting program to keep daily accounts, because we don't know how much we are earning every day, unfortunately. And out of that, whatever collection you have, set aside some percentage for daily SIP. Next morning, that money gets deposited either in your fixed deposit account or on a mutual fund account or whatever you want to do. Because every penny counts. And there is a great power of compounding, as we saw, and always make a budget for your spending. Credit card I always use as a best friend. Like if I bought an equipment and if I want to buy an equipment today, then I would wait till the first of the month, pay that 2, 3, 4 lakhs rupees by credit card, and wait for the whole month to pay at the end of next month. So I have earned interest on that whatever money which otherwise I would have paid upfront. And at the end of at the billing cycle, pay the full amount so that you don't have to pay that 50% of interest. Depreciation is your best friend. Electronic equipment gives you maximum depreciation. Part of your house can be used as an office and you can claim depreciation on it. And leasing and renting an item. Say your wife is not a doctor. Let her buy an X-ray machine for you and lease it out to you. You pay her lease rent, you get full income tax deduction, her file is created. Find out certain ways, some loopholes to pay taxes, but minimum amount. Enjoy your vacation at government expenses. So what you do is you learn and enjoy, attend conferences, travel business class. They won't say no to you. Go for fellowships, go for study tours, go for lecture tours. So if you attend a conference in Paris and spend 3 days in Paris Extra, then all is taken care of. All your travel is taken care of. So enjoy vacation and government expenses. In the fourth decade, you have time depending upon how you give the appointments, and you have money. What you can do is travel, have some constructing hobbies, think of retirement in a nice way, relaxing hobbies, families, friends. Think of your succession planning. Think of charity and keep on investing, because now you will invest less in equity and more in something which is risk free. Now we come to power of teaching. They said that if you give a man a fish, that's enough for him for a day. But if you teach him how to fish, definitely it is for his lifetime. And the same thing is told even in our Sanskrit Subhasita. So this is not something modern, it is something which was told to us thousands of years ago. Now think of people like John Mukhopadhyay, or Dr. Lard, or Dr. L. Prakash, or Dr. Magoo, or Mailo Anand, or Dr. Tanna. How do you rate them? You rate them absolutely at the top of the line. Their reputation, their image, you want to learn from them because they have taught you something which you didn't know, taught you something which you really sort of used it in your practice, and you respected them as demigods, like Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu. So if you teach, that actually increases your wealth. And these are the people who understood the power of independence and delegation, like Guru Reddy, or Rajshekharan, or Sancheti, or Vikram Shah. They created major institutes. They took up younger people to work with them. They trained them. They paid them excellent salaries, or whatever you call them, bonuses or fees, and they grew in the stature. Today you go to any of these institutes and get operated, and what would you say? I went to Guru Reddy's hospital, or I went to Sancheti Institute, or Vikram Shah's hospital. So they created centers of excellence with help of younger, dynamic people, and they gave service to the society as well. So friends, learn to create wealth for yourself and help other also to create wealth. That is the only way you will leave a legacy, and you will not only be richer as far as monetarily concerned, but you will be richer in so many different ways in this society. Thank you very much for your attention.